I was cleaning our bedroom when I found something behind the picture frame, a tiny camera blinking red. That's when I realized my husband was watching me, not loving me. My name is Lena Carter, and I used to believe I had everything a woman could ask for. A loving husband, a beautiful home, and a marriage people admired. From the outside, we looked perfect. But sometimes, what shines brightest on the surface hides the darkest truths underneath. It was a rainy Saturday morning when everything changed. I remember the sound of raindrops tapping on the window, the faint smell of coffee from the kitchen, and the playlist I had softly playing while cleaning our bedroom. I wasn't looking for anything that day. I was just trying to make the house feel alive again. Ethan, my husband, was at work early, like always. He was a tech consultant, obsessed with gadgets, cameras, and all kinds of devices I didn't even pretend to understand. So when I decided to dust the photo frame above our dresser, I didn't expect anything unusual. But then I saw it. Behind the frame, tucked into the wooden edge, there was a small black object. At first, I thought it was part of the frame's hanging clip. Then I noticed the faint red blink. My heart skipped. I leaned closer. It was a camera. Tiny, wireless, and perfectly hidden. For a moment, I couldn't move. My mind raced. Why would a camera be pointed directly at our bed? I picked it up carefully, hands trembling, and turned it over. There was no label, no mark, nothing to suggest it was part of any security system. And that's when it hit me. Ethan never mentioned installing cameras in our bedroom. In fact, he'd always said he didn't like the idea of being recorded. My throat went dry. I placed the frame back and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the camera in my palm. My pulse thudded in my ears. For the next hour, I searched every inch of our room, the lamp, the bookshelf, even the corner of the closet. 2 more cameras, one inside a clock, another hidden in a decorative candle holder, all of them facing me, facing our bed. I remember whispering to myself, "Oh my God, Ethan, what have you done?" I wanted to believe there was a reasonable explanation. Maybe it was for home security, or maybe he was testing some tech for work. But deep down, a cold, creeping feeling told me otherwise. When he came home that evening, I acted normal. I forced a smile, asked about his day, made dinner. But my stomach twisted every time he looked at me. Every laugh, every casual touch felt fake now, like he was playing a part, and I was just the fool who didn't know she was on stage. After dinner, he mentioned going to his office upstairs to finish some work. That was my moment. Quietly, I followed. His office door was slightly open. I peeked inside and saw multiple monitors, all showing different camera angles. The living room, the kitchen, the hallway, and our bedroom. There I was, frozen on the screen, from earlier that morning, folding laundry in my robe. I stepped inside, shaking. "Ethan, what is this?" He turned, startled, his face pale for a split second before he composed himself. "Lena, it's not what it looks like." "Not what it looks like?" I said, my voice trembling. "You're spying on me, on us. There are cameras in our bedroom." He stood, trying to reach for me. "Listen, please, I was only..." "Only what?" I snapped. "Filming me without my consent? Recording my private life?" His eyes hardened. The fake kindness slipped. "Don't make this dramatic, Lena. It's for security. You know how dangerous the neighborhood can be." I laughed bitterly. "Security cameras don't belong in the bedroom, Ethan." He didn't answer, just clenched his jaw, looking at me with something colder than anger. Control. "Delete them," I demanded, "right now." He smirked slightly. "And what if I don't?" That smirk chilled me to the bone. "What did you say?" He stepped closer, his tone low. "Maybe I like having them there. Maybe I like watching." My skin crawled. I took a step back, heart pounding so hard it hurt. "I trusted you," I whispered. "And you still can," he said smoothly, reaching for me again. "You're my wife. Everything I have is yours. Everything you are is mine." Those words broke something inside me. I grabbed my purse and ran out of the room before he could stop me. My hands shook as I drove to my best friend Emma's house. I couldn't even explain at first, the words just wouldn't come. When I finally did, she looked horrified. "Lena, this is serious. He violated your privacy. That's illegal." "I know," I whispered, staring blankly ahead. "But I need proof before I do anything. If I confront him again without evidence, he'll twist it around. Emma nodded, pulling me into a hug. Then we'll get proof. That night, I lay awake on her couch, staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying every moment of my marriage. Every time he made me feel paranoid. Every time he brushed off my questions. It all made sense now. He wasn't protecting me, he was collecting me, one clip at a time. And as the rain poured outside, I made myself a silent promise. He thought he could record my humiliation, but I would make sure the world saw his. For days after that night, I barely slept. Every sound in the house made my heart jump. Every time Daniel's phone buzzed, I froze, wondering if another video had been sent, if more of my privacy had been turned into his weapon. He pretended everything was normal. Morning coffee, quick kisses on the cheek, text messages saying, "Love you." All of it a lie wrapped in charm. But I had learned to play his game. I smiled back, cooked dinner, and laughed at his jokes. Inside, I was building my own quiet war. I needed proof. Something undeniable. Something I could use to destroy him before he destroyed me. That's when I called Emma, my closest friend, the only person I could trust. We met at a small cafe outside the city where no one knew us. I kept my sunglasses on, hands trembling around the coffee cup. "Lena, you look like you've seen a ghost," she whispered. "I think my husband is filming me," I said flatly. "In secret, to ruin me." She blinked. "What, are you serious? How do you know?" "I found hidden cameras in the bedroom lamp and another in the bathroom vent. He's been recording me for weeks, maybe months." Emma covered her mouth in horror. "Oh my God, Lena, you have to go to the police." "I can't," I whispered. "He's a lawyer, a good one. He knows how to make everything look like it's my fault. If I go to the police without proof, he'll twist the story, say I'm paranoid or mentally unstable. I need to catch him red-handed." Emma leaned closer. "Then we'll get him. Together." That night, with Emma's help, I bought a small spy camera of my own and planted it behind a bookshelf in Daniel's study, the one place I was never allowed to enter. He said it was for confidential work, but I knew better now. The next morning, he kissed my forehead and left for the office, smiling as always. As soon as his car pulled away, I ran to the study, plugged the camera feed into my laptop, and waited. Hours later, the footage loaded. My pulse raced as I watched Daniel walk into the study, lock the door, and open his computer. He plugged in a hard drive labeled Home Security, but when he opened the files, there were no security feeds, just folders with my name. One after another, videos of me changing, showering, sleeping, every intimate moment, labeled by date, organized, edited. And then my heart stopped. There was a folder named Proof of Infidelity. I clicked it open. Inside were photos, fake screenshots of text messages, doctored images of me with another man, all designed to look like I was cheating. "Oh my God," I whispered. He wasn't just recording me. He was building a case, one that could destroy me in divorce court, ruin my reputation, and strip me of everything. My hands shook as I copied everything onto a USB drive and deleted the camera footage that showed me entering his study. When he came home that evening, I acted normal, made dinner, asked about his day. He smiled and kissed my cheek again, unaware that his perfect mask was cracking. But that night, as he slept beside me, I couldn't stop staring at him. The man I once loved, now my greatest enemy. The next morning, Emma and I met again. I handed her the USB drive. "This is everything. Proof that he's been spying on me and what he's planning." Emma's face hardened. "We'll expose him, Lena, but we have to be careful. He'll sense something's off if we move too fast." "I know," I said. "That's why I'll keep pretending." So I became the perfect wife again. I cooked his favorite meals, laughed at his stupid jokes, and even planned a small weekend getaway. He didn't suspect a thing. But behind that smile, I was setting traps. Emma contacted a private investigator, someone who specialized in digital crimes. We gave him the copied files, and within days, he confirmed what we already knew. The videos had been uploaded to a private cloud under Daniel's fake name. Worse, he had started sending some clips to an anonymous email. "He's preparing to leak them," the investigator said. "Maybe to tabloids, maybe to your colleagues. You need to act fast." My blood ran cold. I couldn't let that happen. I'd lose everything: my job, my dignity, my life. That night, as Daniel scrolled through his phone in bed, I leaned against his shoulder. "What are you watching?" I asked, pretending to sound curious. Just work stuff, he said, locking his phone immediately. I smiled sweetly. You work too much. Inside, I wanted to scream. 2 nights later, I made my move. While he was in the shower, I unlocked his phone using his fingerprint. He'd passed out earlier, and I'd memorized his password. I scrolled through his emails, and there it was. The anonymous account. Drafts filled with my videos, ready to send. Before I could copy them, the bathroom door opened. Lena, he called. I jumped, locking his phone just in time. Yeah, I said quickly. Just looking for your charger. He smiled, wrapped in a towel. You're always losing yours. Yeah, I forced a laugh, slipping the phone back on the table. When he turned away, his reflection in the mirror caught my eyes. Calm, confident, unbothered. He had no idea I was already 10 steps ahead. Later that night, I texted Emma. Tomorrow, 9 p.m., phase 2. We were done waiting. It was time to turn the hunter into the prey. As I lay beside Daniel, pretending to sleep, a thought crept into my mind. A cold, sharp promise. He thought he could record me, break me, and walk away untouched. But he was about to learn something terrifying. I was done being his victim. I was going to make sure he never forgot what it felt like to be exposed. We'd rehearsed the plan until every step felt muscle memory. Emma and I sat in her kitchen that afternoon, the USB drive between us like a loaded gun. The PI, a quiet woman named Rosa, had mapped Daniel's digital footprint and promised she could trace every upload back to his devices. She'd also prepared forged but plausible email headers and server logs that would look like independent proof to anyone who didn't know better. In our case, independent proof would be enough to force action fast. Timing is everything, Rosa said, folding her hands. You don't give him time to think. You force a reaction, and that reaction will reveal more than he intends. We called it Phase 2. Phase 1 had been copying his files and making sure we had backups. Phase 2 was the public strike. That evening, I pretended to go out with friends. It was a lie. Emma and Rosa set up at my apartment. They had placed a small recording device in Daniel's study that would capture any attempt to delete evidence. Rosa had also arranged to send a casual-sounding email from an anonymous tipster to Daniel's firm, to the Bar Association, and to 2 gossip outlets that loved a good scandal. The email included a short sample video, metadata, and a line. We're concerned this attorney is using surveillance to manipulate his wife and build false evidence. If Daniel reacted like a normal person, he would delete everything and try to smooth it over. If he panicked, he would make mistakes. We needed him panicked. At 8:45 p.m., Emma texted me, "Ready?" I swallowed and typed back, "Do it." At 8:50, Rosa hit send. Within 10 minutes, my phone rang. I watched it buzz. Daniel's name on the screen, and something cold crawled through my chest. He was calling the house landline first, likely because he thought it would be less traceable. I didn't answer. Emma did, playing her part, worried, sweet, and completely convincing. A minute later, the firm's managing partner called my cell. "Lena, are you home? Are you all right? There's an allegation circulating about Daniel." My stomach dropped. I kept my voice steady. "What allegation?" He hesitated. "Something about internal surveillance and possible evidence of misconduct. We received a tip. The partners are meeting right now." The way he said it, partners meeting, and made my pulse skip. That was good. Fast pressure. Next, an email from the bar came through. It confirmed a preliminary inquiry and asked for Daniel to appear for a statement. A local gossip page posted a short paragraph with a blurred image and the headline, "Top lawyer under investigation for scandalous surveillance." Comments exploded. Inside the apartment, I heard footsteps. Daniel's pace was panicked, then angry. He moved like a man who'd been pulled off a stage and was trying to remember his lines. He barreled into the study and slammed the door. I could hear keys tapping. Rosa's device recorded everything. I watched through the small camera feed on my phone. Daniel deleting files, opening folders, muttering to himself. Then he stopped. He clicked into a folder, then his face went white. He grabbed his phone and called someone, his father, a partner, then slammed it down. I texted Emma, "Now." She relayed the note to Rosa, who sent a brief, calm email to Daniel's managing partner, attaching copies of the files we'd collected, the metadata trail, and a statement saying the evidence suggested internal misuse of surveillance devices for coercion and fabrication of compromising material. Rosa also told them there were copies of the files already with the bar and with law enforcement. 5 minutes later, the lights in the study went off. Daniel burst out, eyes burning, his composure stripped. "What did you do, Lena?" he hissed. "What did you tell them?" I walked in slowly, holding my phone as though it were nothing special. "You gave me all the tools," I said. "You recorded me. You organized it. You labeled files. You even set up a draft that would make it look like I was unfaithful. You built your own narrative." He laughed, a short, ugly sound. "You think you can play me? You think you're clever? Clever enough to stop you." I held up the USB Emma had hidden in her bag. "And clever enough to give the bar and the firm everything they need to open an inquiry before you can spin this." His face twisted with pure animal panic. "You can't do this. You'll ruin me. Do you want that? You'll ruin our life." I felt the old Lena, the scared, obedient woman, trying to climb out from beneath a stone inside me. I pushed her down. "You ruined my life years ago," I said softly. "You just made sure the world could see it. And I will not be silenced." There was a frantic banging at the front door. A man in a suit and an ID badge slipped a card through the slot. "Mr. Daniels, we're with Internal Affairs and the State Police. We have a warrant to inspect your devices." Daniels' eyes darted to the door as if searching for an escape route. He knew the rules. As a lawyer, he knew how damaging even an inquiry could be. Suspension, malpractice investigation, criminal charges for voyeurism, and tampering with evidence. He turned back to me like a wounded animal. "You set me up." "No," I answered, steady. "You set yourself up long before I knew." He lunged at me then, the movement quick, reckless. For a blinding second, I thought he would hit me. But instead, he grabbed my phone and tried to snatch the camera feed from my hands. "Don't," a voice said behind him, Rosa stepping into the doorway, badge out, calm and prepared. "Mr. Daniels, step away from her. We need to speak with you." He froze, breathing hard. The sound of officers entering, the shuffle of paper. It was all happening faster than we dared hope. Neighbors began to whisper outside. Lights flashed faintly from police cars down the street. My body trembled, not from fear now, but from a fierce, oppressive relief I hadn't known I needed. Daniel's mouth opened and closed. He looked at me. Fury, hurt, humiliation mingled, like someone watching the last act of their own downfall. "You'll regret this," he spit. "I don't regret protecting myself," I said, "and I don't regret letting the truth out." They led him downstairs as if escorting a criminal, not the man who had once kissed me on quiet Sunday mornings. He reached for me as he passed. His hand brushed mine for a second, an electric memory of another life, and then they took him away. I closed the door, the slam echoing like a gavel in my chest. Emma hugged me so hard I felt the breath squeeze out of me. Rosa gave me a small professional nod and slipped a card into my hand. "If you want to press charges, we'll help. If you want a restraining order, we'll file it. But know this, the bar will investigate too. Men like him don't often walk away from this." I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the living room floor in the dark, the rain beginning again outside, and scrolled through the footage one more time. I watched my own terrified face, the one who had folded laundry, who had laughed at his jokes, who had trusted a smile. I watched the footage that he'd used to build his trap, and then I watched the evidence I'd given to the authorities, neat, irrefutable, and prepared. A small, fierce part of me felt vindicated, not because I'd humiliated him in return, but because the power had shifted. For the first time, the cameras were not tools to shame me. They were proof to stop him. Outside, the drizzle smudged the streetlights into soft halos. Inside, the house finally felt like a place I could breathe in again, though I knew the fight was far from over. The morning after Daniel's arrest, the air felt heavy, like the calm before another storm. My phone buzzed endlessly. Reporters, former colleagues, even my mother. But I didn't answer anyone. I sat by the window, watching police cars come and go, their red-blue lights reflecting off the rain-soaked street. The whole neighborhood knew by now. By noon, the story had spread across social media. Headlines read, "Top attorney arrested for secretly recording wife. High-profile lawyer faces criminal charges." People who used to smile at us during morning jogs now whispered when I passed. It should have made me feel embarrassed, but strangely, it didn't. For the first time, it wasn't my shame being displayed. It was his. Emma came over with coffee and 2 sandwiches. "You're trending," she said softly, trying to make me laugh. I managed a small smile. Imagine that. Me, the woman who never even had an Instagram account. She sat beside me. "You did what most people only dream of. You stood up to him. But Lena, this isn't over. His lawyers are already working. They'll come after you." I nodded. I know. 2 days later, I received the court summons. Daniel had filed a counter-complaint, accusing me of defamation and illegal access to his private files. It was a classic move. Attack the victim before she can rebuild. His father, a retired judge, had arranged for a high-profile defense team. The first hearing was scheduled for the following Monday. I wore a simple navy dress, tied my hair back, and carried only a small folder. Copies of the surveillance evidence, Rosa's authentication reports, and my written statement. I refused to let fear dictate how I walked into that courtroom. When I entered, Daniel was already there, dressed immaculately, face calm, the same mask of confidence that once fooled me. His lawyer stood beside him, whispering something that made Daniel smirk slightly when he saw me. The judge, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes, called for silence. "We are here to determine the preliminary charges in the matter of Daniels versus Daniels," she began. "Both parties have filed complaints. We will review evidence and testimony before proceeding." Daniel's lawyer started first. He spoke eloquently, painting me as a paranoid wife, mentally unstable, claiming I misunderstood his client's harmless home security setup. She invaded his privacy, the lawyer argued. She accessed confidential client data on his devices. This is nothing but revenge from a woman scorned. My chest tightened, but I didn't flinch. When it was my turn, Rosa stepped forward with calm precision. She presented timestamps, hidden camera placements, and the footage Daniel had saved under misleading labels. Then came the moment that shifted the room. She played one of the videos. The screen flickered on. There I was, folding laundry, humming softly. A small lens caught the moment I bent down to pick up a dropped shirt, unaware of being watched. Gasps filled the courtroom. The judge's expression hardened. Rosa's voice was steady. "Your Honor, these cameras were placed without Mrs. Daniels' knowledge. Mr. Daniels edited segments to suggest infidelity, which he planned to leak as part of a smear campaign. Metadata confirms these files originated from his home server." Daniel's face drained of color. For the first time, his confidence cracked. He tried to interrupt, but his lawyer grabbed his arm. The judge raised her hand. "Enough, Mr. Daniels. This court will not tolerate manipulation." Daniel stammered. It's not what it looks like. But she cut him off. "It's exactly what it looks like, and what it sounds like." The courtroom went silent. When the hearing ended, the judge denied Daniel's motion and ordered a formal criminal investigation into his actions. He would face charges of illegal surveillance, defamation, and emotional abuse. I was cleared of all allegations. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Flashing lights, microphones, chaos. One reporter shouted, "Lena, what will you do now?" I paused. "I'll live," I said simply. Something he never let me do. That line went viral overnight. It was shared, quoted, and replayed across platforms. Thousands of women commented, some sharing their own stories, others thanking me for standing up. But with every message of support came hate too. Strangers calling me a liar, accusing me of destroying my husband's life. I read every comment, every insult, every word. And then I decided I wouldn't be silent anymore. Emma and I started a small podcast, Behind Closed Doors. It was meant to help women recognize warning signs of emotional and digital abuse. We shared expert advice, legal resources, and survivor stories. Within a month, we had 10,000 listeners. Meanwhile, Daniel's world unraveled. His firm suspended him pending investigation. Clients withdrew their cases. The Bar Association froze his license. The press exposed his double life, fake charities, affairs with interns, and a string of NDAs he had used to silence other women. One evening, I received an anonymous letter, no return address. Inside was a single sentence. "Thank you for finally exposing him. I wasn't brave enough, but you were." I cried for a long time after reading that, not out of sadness, but release. Weeks later, Daniel requested to meet me before his final hearing. Against Rosa's advice, I agreed. In a public cafe, surrounded by people. He arrived looking thinner, older, eyes ringed with exhaustion. He sat across from me. "I lost everything," he said. "Are you happy now?" I sipped my coffee, keeping my tone even. "No, Daniel. Happiness isn't built on revenge. It's built on freedom, and I finally have mine." He leaned forward. "You think people will remember you as a hero? They'll move on. But me? I'll never recover." I met his eyes. "That's not my fault. You chose your path. I just stopped being your victim." He didn't answer, just stared at me, defeated. As he left, I realized something profound. Revenge wasn't the victory. The victory was surviving without bitterness. That night, I returned home, sat by the same window where I once waited for his calls, and finally felt peace. The cameras were gone, the shadows gone, the silence no longer heavy. But just before bed, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number appeared. "He's appealing. Be ready." My hand shook for a second, old fear threatening to return. But then I smiled faintly. Because this time, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't alone. I had truth. And that was stronger than any camera he ever hid. When the appeal hearing date finally came, I felt strangely calm. Months had passed since the chaos began. The headlines had faded, the reporters had moved on, and the house that once echoed with Daniel's voice now held only silence. A silence that finally felt peaceful. Still, walking into that courtroom again stirred memories. I remembered the first day, the fear, the shame, the confusion. But now I was walking in as someone different, stronger, wiser, unbreakable. Emma came with me, squeezing my hand as we entered. "No matter what happens," she whispered, "you already won." She was right. I didn't come for revenge anymore. I came for closure. Daniel sat across the room, looking nothing like the man I once married. His suit hung loosely on his shoulders, his hair slightly unkempt. The arrogance that once filled the space around him was gone, replaced by something almost hollow. His new lawyer stood and began to argue that the original ruling had been emotionally influenced, that Daniel had suffered public humiliation disproportionate to his actions. He spoke about Daniel's mental health, his moment of poor judgment. It was all so rehearsed, so polished, but the judge, the same woman as before, wasn't swayed. She leaned forward, voice firm. "Mr. Daniels recorded his wife without consent, attempted to manipulate evidence and defame her character. The court sees no reason to reduce his sentence." The gavel struck once, final, unmistakable. Daniel's shoulders slumped as the words sank in. The decision was upheld. 5 years of suspended imprisonment, loss of his law license, mandatory counseling, and a permanent restraining order protecting me. For the first time, I didn't feel anger, only a deep, aching release. After the hearing, as the courtroom emptied, Daniel turned slightly to look at me. His eyes were red, not from rage this time, but regret. For a brief second, I saw the man he might have been, the man I once thought he was. But it didn't matter anymore. He was escorted out quietly. No words, no threats, no more power. When I stepped outside, the air was crisp and clean. The sky was a pale blue, and the sunlight hit my face with a warmth I hadn't felt in years. Emma hugged me tight, laughing through tears. "It's over," she said. "Yes," I whispered. "It's finally over." But in truth, it was the beginning. Over the next few weeks, I kept receiving letters from women across the country. Some from strangers who'd watched my interview, others from women who had faced similar abuse but never had the courage to speak up. They called me the woman who fought the camera. I didn't correct them, because in a way that was true. I had turned the very thing that trapped me into the weapon that freed me. Our podcast, Behind Closed Doors, grew beyond anything we'd imagined. Survivors shared their stories, lawyers offered advice on digital privacy, therapists spoke about healing from emotional control. It became more than content. It became a movement. One evening, as I finished recording an episode titled The Power of Evidence, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. The message was short. "You gave me courage. I just left my abusive husband. Thank you." I stared at it for a long time, tears welling. That one message meant more than any headline ever could. Later that night, I sat on the porch sipping tea as dusk settled. For the first time in years, the world around me felt still. No hidden cameras, no footsteps behind me, no eyes watching. Just me, the crickets, and the quiet hum of life moving forward. I pulled out the last remaining USB, the one Rosa had sealed in an evidence envelope months ago. I hadn't opened it since. It contained all the original footage Daniel had recorded. For a moment, I considered destroying it. But then I stopped. That footage wasn't a reminder of my pain. It was proof of my strength. It showed how far I'd come. I placed it in a small lockbox and wrote a note. For every woman who thinks she's powerless, you're not. Years later, people would still talk about the case. Some called it the Daniels scandal. Others called it the revenge of truth. But to me, it was never about revenge. It was about reclaiming control, about showing that even when someone tries to rewrite your life, you can take back the pen. One afternoon, while volunteering at a women's legal aid center, a young girl approached me shyly. "Are you Mrs. Daniels?" she asked. I hesitated, then smiled. "Just Lena." She looked down. "My mom said you saved her. She said because of you, she left before it got worse." My throat tightened. I reached out, brushing a tear from the girl's cheek. "Then your mom saved herself. I just told my story." That night, I recorded my final podcast episode. People ask if I ever regretted exposing him. The answer is no, because silence protects the abuser, not the abused. If my story helped even one person find their voice, then everything I went through was worth it. He filmed me to destroy me. But he forgot one thing. Truth doesn't break when it's watched. It grows stronger. I ended the episode with a smile and a quiet whisper. To every woman listening, they might think they're watching you, but trust me, you're the one writing the ending. The soft outro music played. I leaned back, exhaling deeply. Outside, the wind moved through the trees, carrying away the last traces of a story that had once defined me. The cameras were gone, the shadows gone, the fear gone. Only one thing remained, justice. And that finally was enough. Story complete, 5 parts, approx 450 words. Tone, emotional, realistic, justice-focused. Ending empowering plus moral closure.